Hello, everybody. Welcome to the GM Sports Report, your weekly podcast on all things sports where every play counts. I'm Grant, and I'm here with my co-host Mason as we get ready to cover the latest news, headlines, and upcoming events going on in the sports world. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to see all things GM Sports Report. Mason, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Grant. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. We got a lot of fun things to talk about from this last week of sports, so I'm excited for that.
Yep.
All right, so let's just get things started with our hot takes this week. Go ahead and give yours.
Mine has been pretty. Well, I'm just gonna get into it. So, Mike Tomlin, I think, needs to be put on the hot seat. I know
Mm.
he's had some pretty great seasons throughout throughout his tenure. I don't think he's ever had a losing season. One of the youngest head coaches to ever enter the league, and he's been a great coach overall. But in the last 5 seasons, he's lost 4 wild card games. So it's pretty much just like an extra regular season game for them. I mean, it's just another L for them to take, and it's as a Steelers fan, I couldn't imagine how stressful and like upset they would be. So I think I personally love him as a head coach. My dad's a big Steelers fan, so I pretty much grew up watching them as well. It's just I think is needed, and whether that's put a little pressure on him to kind of get the job done, or you know have some questions for him in the future. So yeah, that's my hot take of the week.
I get what you're saying, but when you look at like the roster they had this year and the roster they were going against in the Ravens, did you really expect them to come across with a win this last week?
No, I didn't this week, and that's kind of well, it's kind of tough to say that for this year, but the last 5 years, losing 4 wild card games, there's no way that they've been underdogs the last 5 years or four
I just feel
years.
like I haven't seen them with like a good roster in a while, like a legit like playoff roster.
I mean, and they've that's that this could be a whole nother debate, but getting there and not getting the job done, I think is kind of the biggest thing. And that's the same thing with kind of like Kyle Shanahan. He's
Right.
kind of been going through the same thing, making it to the Super Bowl or NFC Championship, and just still can't get the job done. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just saying he should definitely get looked at. Not as far
Yeah,
as get
that's
fired
fair.
or anything. He should get looked at. So, yeah, that's kind of my biggest thing.
All right, I like it. Um, my hot take of the week, I'm going to be happy to talk about this one. Although the media will not point this out, the Boston Celtics are going through it right now. I don't know if you know this, but they are
Mm-hmm.
7-6 in their
Oh,
last 13 games. And in those 7 wins, a lot of them have come by like 1 or 2 possessions, including a 1-point win to the New Orleans Pelicans. They
mm,
cannot seem to figure it out since Kristaps Porzingis. Of course, I think they're going to figure it out and still be like a top team in the East, if not the best team in the East. I think they'll figure it out. But I
right.
just think it's funny how the media is not saying a single word about this,
Oh
about them
yeah,
being 7-6 in their last 13. They won't talk about that at all. But they also will proceed to not talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have been the best team in the league all season long. So I don't get that. But yeah, that's my hot take of the week is that they're struggling right now. And it's kind of fun to watch as a Heat fan, not going to lie.
I don't know if you've noticed, but whenever NBA kind of posts the games, like whether they win or lose, um, the Celtics will be all the way in the back if they lose,
Mm-hmm.
but if they
Yep.
win, they'll be like one of the first
First
posts. So
one.
I think
Yep.
that's kind of funny to see like in the comments that fans are kind of like, oh, Boston, they're trying to hide Boston and stuff. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been
yeah,
it's been
I like that
interesting to
hot take.
see this dynamic of Kristaps coming back and them struggling.
Yeah,
It's kind of weird,
yeah,
but I'm
that's
sure they'll figure
crazy.
it out. Yeah.
Hmm.
All right. The next thing we're going to talk about is our underdogs of the week. So, Mason, go ahead. Who's your underdog this week?
So my underdog this week is Jaden Greathouse, wide receiver for Notre Dame. Had 7 receptions, 105 yards, and a touchdown. And mind you, that touchdown was, I think, the spark to kind of push them to that win against Penn State in that 27-24 win. It's just that play that he scored on was absolutely electric. Made the corner fall on his butt, and then safety fall on his butt as soon as he caught it. So I think that was just a great spark for them to win.
Yeah, I like it. Give some college football shout outs. I like that.
Yeah.
My underdog of the week is the Los Angeles Rams. Now, For those of you who didn't watch last week's episode, we did a second episode talking about all the wild card games, and we both said that the Rams shouldn't be looked at as underdogs and that they had a legit chance of
Uh-huh.
beating the Vikings, which obviously they did, but they're still considered an underdog. So they're my underdogs of the week because they came out and dominated the 14-3 Minnesota Vikings. They beat them 27-9, and they didn't set. They tied the playoff game record for 9 sacks, which is pretty impressive
Yeah,
by that defense over there. So, yeah, shout out to the Rams. They're my underdog of the week.
absolutely. Yep.
All right, now we're going to keep things in the NFL, and we're just going to slide over there. And we're going to start by giving our 3 biggest takeaways from this last week in the wild card round. So, Mason, go ahead.
All right. So my first takeaway is that even though they didn't win, the Lad McConkey has probably been one of my favorite receivers this season. Let alone probably the best rookie receiver. He carried that Chargers offense. It pretty much was the only good thing that they had going for him. He had 9 receptions, 197 yards, and a touchdown. Um, if it, he just was the whole offense, and it's been awesome to kind of watch him progress throughout the season. My next takeaway is that the Broncos versus Bills went exactly how pretty much we expected. Just so young of a team. I didn't anticipate Bo Nix really doing much, and he really didn't. So I'd say I'd give it another year or so, kind of see where they're at, and then they can kind of start making impacts in the playoffs. So I haven't completely lost hope on them all just yet. They're such a young team.
Yeah.
Um, Another thing that's kind of concerning is no matter how much hype or love that you have for Jordan Love, um, 3 interceptions is not a very good look. Josh Jacobs was the only really offense that they had going, and that Eagles defense was just, it was just kind of picking them apart literally. So yeah, I think that Jordan Love also kind of has to prove himself in postseason and clutch situations as well. So yeah, those are my 3 takeaways.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And to touch on that third point, I did pick the Eagles to win, but I did say if the Packers wanted a chance, they'd have to run their offense through Josh Jacobs,
Yep,
which they kind of were doing to a point. But also, you got to kind of take into consideration Jordan Love was without his top 3
that's
receivers
true.
towards the end of that game. But yeah,
Yeah.
he's definitely struggled that game for sure. So I
Mhm.
like those 3 takeaways. I agree with all 3 of them. My number one takeaway is that Ravens are a legit contender even without Zay Flowers.
Yeah,
I don't know what the status is if he's going to be playing this upcoming week or not, but it didn't slow them down at all. And I mean, you look at the Ravens; they're just built for the playoffs, like we've talked about so many times with that run game. They can just control the ball, control possession of the ball, like for 10 minutes if they wanted to with that run offense. So I think they'll be fine with it, with or without him. My number 2 takeaway is that the Rams are a legit threat and could even pull off an upset against the Eagles this upcoming week. As I said earlier, they had the 9 sacks, so that's pretty impressive, and their offense seems to be clicking. You look at the offense this last game, the Vikings game. They don't have like a guy that really jumped out on the stats, but it was kind of like a joint effort. And I think they should continue with that game plan because you have so many different weapons with Williams. You got Nakua, you got Cooper Cup, you got Higbee. So you got a lot of weapons, and I would not be surprised with the momentum that they've had if they pull off an upset against the Eagles. My number 3 takeaway is that although it has been a great story for the Washington Commanders this year, and they've won their first playoff game since 2005, they're not going to go any further. They're going against the Detroit Lions, and they're going to get absolutely spanked. So it's been a great season for them and a lot of great stories to come out of it. Obviously, Jaden Daniels and obviously Terry McLaurin's had a huge year, but I just don't see them going any further. So those are my 3 takeaways.
nice. So do you think that the Rams will beat the Eagles, or you could just see it happening?
I could see it happening. I'll still pick the Eagles. It's kind of like the thing I said last week about like
Yeah,
the Rams and Vikings. I said that it could be an upset, but I still pick the Vikings. So that's
yeah.
kind of
Just
like how I sit with that.
the Eagles are just a powerhouse, man. Like I don't. Yeah,
They
I mean, I could
are
see it being a good game. I don't know.
they are a great team, obviously. But here's the thing I'm looking at right now. Like we saw the
Mhm.
9 sacks from the Rams defense. Their defense was on all
Yeah,
game. And the Eagles kind of showed from after those first 2 drives till like late in the third quarter, they really couldn't do anything on offense against the Packers. The Packers were in that game for a long
Yeah.
time, and it
Yeah,
kind of
that's
broke
true.
open later in the game. So if they can
Mhm.
if the Rams can have a good defensive game plan and can stop them, I think their offense can match the Eagles' offense, which may be a hot take. That probably is a very hot take, but I think
No,
it can
yeah,
match.
it is.
I think it
Something I
can.
kinda wanna touch on too is that I didn't see this until, what was it? Me and my dad were watching the Packers-Eagles game. I never realized how big those Eagles linemen are. The shortest person on that O-line is 6'4", and they average like a 6'6", 6'7" height, and, like, they're all
Yeah.
above, like, 280, almost 300 pounds, so, um, another stat with them as well is, like, you don't really see stats as far as O-line, but before Saquon even gets touched, the O-line gets 2 yards before he gets contact. So I
Mhm.
think that's an insane stat, and, like, the average number per team is, like, 1.1 yard. So, I think it should be, like you said, a pretty even matchup. Maybe, we'll see. I think it should be very
Yeah.
interesting, though, because a team coming off 9 sacks and then another team with
Exactly.
probably the best O-line in,
Yep.
the nation, so should definitely be a dogfight in the trenches, and I'm excited to see that.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I do think that the Eagles are gonna end up winning, but
Yeah, yeah.
I'm kind of, like, piggybacking off of what I did last week with the Rams saying how I wouldn't be surprised if they
Okay,
won.
okay. Yeah, yeah.
Um, all right, now we're gonna slide into a topic that came out from the NFL yesterday, that Mike McCarthy is out as a Dallas Cowboys head coach next season. What are your thoughts on this? Because I feel like this has been a long time coming.
Um, I'm honestly I wasn't really kinda too caught up in the Cowboys all year. He was having some pretty winning seasons. This season obviously was did not go too well, especially with all, the injuries and all that. Um, but I don't really think too much about Mike McCarthy. I'm not too sure where he could land. I know the Bears are kinda looking at him,
Mm,
whenever they kinda get interviews going. But another thing I did see is that Deion Sanders kinda had a meeting with Jerry Jones as far as the head coaching position, and I will say right now, if Deion Sanders was to take this job, I'm gonna lose a little respect for him. Just all the
yeah,
guys that he was able to pull from the recruiting and, like, transfer portal, just to kinda up and leave after your sons leave, in my
yeah,
opinion, that's a bad look.
it is.
I haven't been high on that Colorado team all year, but, for this, they have probably one of the best quarterbacks coming out of high school, and just to leave just like that, I think that would be just horrible, and like I said, I'd lose pretty much a good amount of respect for him.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, Deion Sanders part. As far as the Mike McCarthy thing goes, I feel like this has been a long time coming. I'm not 100% sure. Like you said, I don't really keep
Yeah.
tabs on the Cowboys like that too much, but like obviously from Matt, he's made it sound like they should have fired.
Mhm.
I know in the past he said multiple times they should fire him. So um,
Yeah.
that's kind of where I've gotten that opinion from. I don't know. Um, I feel like this doesn't solve any of their problems though, because I feel like
No,
the
not at
real
all.
problem is with roster construction and basically what Jerry Jones is in charge of. I feel like he's kind of the
Oh,
problem.
100%.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, maybe it's a step in the right direction, maybe not. Only time will tell. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that.
Mhm.
All right, real quick before we slide over to the NBA, I just want to mention that this week on Friday, we're going to be posting a second episode going over the divisional round for the NFL coming up this week. We're going to do a lot of breakdowns, kind of what we did last week with the wild card on our second episode. So that's going to be coming out on Friday. So make sure you guys tune in for that. All right, now we're going to go over to the NBA, and we're going to start with what we do every week with our player of the week. So Mason, go ahead. Who's your player this week?
My player this week is Darius Garland, Cleveland Cavaliers, Eastern Conference Player of the Week, 26 points per game, 7.7 assists per game, and 40% from three. So, yeah, he's been electric for that powerhouse of a Cavs offense. So, yeah, he's my player of the week.
I like it. Also won Eastern Conference Player of the Week, so a good choice. And I'm also going to go with a person who won Western Conference Player of the Week, and that is Domantas Sabonis. Domantas Sabonis, I've been saying this for a few years now. He is probably the most underrated center in the NBA. I mean, this guy is a walk-in double-double, and he can get you a triple-double with his assists. He's a great passer, very underrated passer. Um, he's always looked at as the second option on that Kings team because of De'Aaron Fox, but man, he is just an absolute all-star of a player. He does the gritty, hard work. He does the dirty plays that you need, but he also can score you 25, 30 points if he needs to. This last week, these stats are just ridiculous. This last week, he averaged 22 points per game, 20.3 rebounds per game, and 7.3 assists per game, while leading his team to a 3-0 record. That is just absurd. So Domantas Sabonis is my player of the week, and I think it's a guy that doesn't get talked about enough.
That's like my 2K build. I'm a big in 2K, so I'd be pulling up like 20 rebounds a game.
You do not be. That's not true. Bro averages
No,
5 boards a game. All right.
no, I get like 7 or 8. I get like 7 or
All
8.
right. Fair enough. All right. Now we're gonna slide over to our team of the week. So Mason, go ahead.
I'm gonna go with the Detroit Pistons. They just beat on my Knicks last night. 7-1 in the last 8, and definitely looking up for the future. So yeah, they're my team of the week.
Yeah, I agree. I picked them last week as my team of the week because they started with that 4-game win streak, and I've also picked them one other time on this show as my team of the week. It's just a new era in Detroit, and I love to see it.
Yeah.
You got guys like Cade Cunningham, who's becoming a legit star in front of our own eyes, and they just have a good team. Malik Beasley's been a really good veteran for them. He's the one that kind of hit the dagger against the Knicks last night. They've been legit. So, yeah, shout out to the Detroit Pistons. My team of the week is the team that the media still seems to not be talking about, although they're the best team in the league, and that is the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are 9-1 in their last 10 games, and they had that amazing game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. It felt like a finals game, back and forth until Cleveland pulled away and got the win. So that's my team of the week. They deserve to be the team of the week, and I don't get why they're not being talked about at all.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's not flashy enough for.
Yeah, I was just about to say, because like everyone's kind of like all the good teams kind of have their star flashy player. I mean, Donovan Mitchell's obviously and Darius Garland are like the stars of the team, but they're not like guys like the media want to really go about. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Another thing I want to talk about is now we've got a little bit of a sample size going on in the NBA. So when you look at the standings, when you look at the East and you look at the West, I just want to know, like, what are two things that stand out from you? Like one thing that stands out for you in the Eastern Conference and one thing that stands out for you in the Western Conference.
So honestly, something that shocked me, the Magic started off so hot this year, and with all the injuries, I thought that they just fell off so hard. But with how things are going, Paulo is coming back or has come back, and they're currently sitting on the 4th seed and aren't too far behind the Knicks at the 3 seed. So that's kind of something that caught my eye. I thought they were going to be like, I don't know, 6 or 7, but their backups kind of got them in a good spot for their starters to kind of start coming back piece by piece. So that's honestly kind of shocked me. I do kind of have a bad taste going to a couple Orlando games, some of those fans. So I'm not going to be as high on them as I have been, but yeah, that's something that kind of shocked me. And then in the West, I know you guys you guys played Clippers last night, right?
Yes, we did. We got killed
Yeah,
by
so
them.
I know, kind of sore subject, but they're not too far out of the mix between the 4 through 6 seeds. Currently sitting at the 6 seed right now, so that kind of shocked me, kind of seeing how in the mix of things that they are. I know. So yeah, that's something that kind of caught my eye, but yeah.
Yeah. When I look at the East right now, it's kind of what you're just saying. Outside of the 1 and 2 slot, it's really anyone's game right now. If you look at the 4th seed through the 9th seed, it's separated by 2 games right now, which is just absolutely crazy. And that 9th seed is the Detroit Pistons, which is just it's crazy. If you told me that the Detroit Pistons would be 2 games outside of 4th place in the Eastern Conference this year, I would have laughed in your face and told you were crazy.
I know.
But the East, I don't know if it's a mix of the East is bad or if the East is super competitive and all these teams are just close with each other. I think it's more that it's kind of bad this year compared to the West. But yeah, that's kind of what I've noticed in the East is that it's really anyone's game outside of 1 and 2. When I look into the West, the big thing that like catches my eye is that youth has taken over in the West. These young teams with these young cores in the West are some of the best teams in the West. I mean, the first seed, the second seed, and the third seed are all teams with a young core, which is OKC in first, Houston in second, and Memphis in third. Those are all teams with a younger core. So, yeah, that's my takeaway from the West is that the youth is taking over out there, which I love to
Yeah,
see,
we
by
kind of
the way.
touched up. Yeah, we touched up on that about like a couple weeks in a row now. I mean,
Right.
it's shown how much the fresh legs can kind of get it in.
Yeah, for sure. All right, that pretty much wraps up the NBA. So now we're going to go over the college football, where the national championship has been set. Is going to be Ohio State versus Notre Dame. Mason, I know you're the college football guy, so I'll let you kind of talk on this one for a little bit. Who do you have winning between the two?
Yeah, man, like I've been saying these past couple episodes, I've been so high on Notre Dame. I want them to win. I just love everything that they have going for them. But in reality, I think that Ohio State will win. Just too many playmakers on both sides. You got Jack Sawyer at the end. He changed that game against Texas, and that was probably the most electric thing that we've seen in college football playoffs so far. And you got guys on the offensive side of the ball. Jeremiah Smith only had one reception for 3 yards, so he's kind of clamped all night, double, triple coverage, and they still came out with a win. They had Tate play amazing. He was another receiver. He had about like 80 something yards, but they were able to get what they needed done when they needed it. And we know the guys from Notre Dame. They have what's his name, Riley Leonard. He didn't have the greatest game, but he was able to get the win. Jeremiah Love, absolute dog. And like I said, Jaden Greathouse, he had a phenomenal game. So I think it'll definitely come down to which defense can prevent the most mistakes on their own end, just because any small opening or just any small momentum from either of these offenses, it can get carried away. So it'll definitely come down to a defensive game where, like many say, defense wins championships, and this is where it'll show. So yeah, I have Ohio State winning, but I want Notre Dame to win. So
Yeah, I'm also going to go with Ohio State winning. I think Notre Dame's put together a really impressive season, but so has Ohio State. Obviously, that game against Oregon
yeah,
was crazy. I think Will Howard's a pretty good quarterback. I think they got some weapons over there. So I have them winning, but it should be a good game. I don't think this is going to be a blowout.
yeah.
All right, yeah, that pretty much wraps up college football because that's literally the only thing left in college football this season. Now we're going to slide over to UFC 311. I know you and me are both very excited about this event. It's going to obviously be Islam versus Arman. I'm not even going to pronounce his last name
Yeah,
until
I know.
I
I
have to
know.
learn it. Not going to try to butcher that. I just want to get your thoughts on who's going to win the main event real quick, just the main event only.
I mean, there's really not. I haven't seen too much on Armin to kind of go his way. I've seen Islam. I know what he can do, so I'm gonna go Islam's way. I mean, it's too dominant of a fighter to not win, and I have not heard too much hype from Armin to even come close to it. So I'm just Islam.
I'm going Islam as well.
Yeah, I mean,
Um, Just real quick though, before we move on from UFC, as we said, we're both very excited for this card. There's a ton of good fights on this card. So on Saturday, we're going to be posting a third video this week, and that's going to be a UFC 311 breakdown. We're going to be going over every single main card fight, kind of give our opinions, what to watch out for, all these kinds of things, our predictions, obviously. So any UFC fans out there, make sure you tune in. It's going to be posted on Saturday morning, and it's going to be a UFC 311 special.
yeah. What we said we wanted to post more, so this is it.
Yep,
3
exactly.
episodes a week.
3
We
videos
love it.
this week. Yep.
Uh-huh.
All right, and now for the final segment of the show, it's a favorite of mine. The floor is not
Mm-hmm.
yours. This is where we give a 5-to-1 list on the biggest fails going on. Do you want to do 5-5, 4-4, or do you want to
Yeah,
go just
yeah.
straight list? Okay.
We can do 5-5.
All right.
I like that.
All right, go ahead
So,
and start with your number 5 then.
so my 5 is DeMar Hamlin.
Mm,
Just get. He thought he caught the interception against the Broncos. He ultimately did not. He caught it. Runs to the back of the end zone, takes off his helmet, takes off his ski mask, whatever. jumps into the crowd, acting like he, just changed the game. They were killing him, by the way, already.
Yeah, it's garbage
And
time minutes.
just for it to come back as an incomplete pass. And all you see on the sideline was him going, which was just hilarious. So yeah,
They brought
that's
Will
my
Levis
number
into the
5. It's
playoffs.
just, I know. So that's my number 5. Just thought it was pretty funny.
Have you ever seen the meme? Obviously, everyone's seen this meme of Patrick Beverly after winning a playing game, and he jumps
Yeah,
up on the scores
he's
table and he's throwing
throwing
his
the
jersey out in
jersey.
the stands and stuff. That's the same vibe it gave me when Damar Hamlin did that. And the reason I'm talking about that is because that's also my number 5 is Damar Hamlin doing
Okay.
that. Obviously, Damar Hamlin, phenomenal story. Okay, tragedy
Yes.
happened
Yes.
to him not too long ago,
Mm-hmm.
and to see him recover and play in these like playoff games this season, it really is a great story to see. But man, it was so funny to see this happen. And it definitely is worthy on a floor is not yours list. So that is also my number 5.
Yeah, I mean, we're not negating anything that, the story at all. It's just
Exactly.
thought it was
Exactly.
very funny.
Yes.
All
All right.
right, so
What's your number
number
4?
4, um, you know, I was gonna put him higher until I kind of saw the other guys I want to put on the list. Also, given the situation of a horrible week that they're coming off, it's gonna be Sam Darnold. He was sacked 9 times, but also just did not, he was not regular season Darnold. And even that Detroit game, that I'm not counting that as regular season because that's a playoff caliber team. If you wanted to win that game, you'd have so much momentum going in. But sacked 9 times is insane. I don't think anyone can kind of function right after that. So,
No.
yeah, I'm just gonna go for just kind of forcing stuff that did not need to be thrown. And yeah, Sam Darnold looking like Jet self.
Number 4, I'm going with a play that occurred this last week that I think was probably your personal favorite play that happened all week. That's
Uh,
going with Bobby Wagner, who got absolutely hit sticked by
I
Baker
love
Mayfield.
that.
Absolutely ran through. I love Baker Mayfield. Obviously, he's probably my favorite quarterback. Um, yeah, that play was absolutely insane. We were both
So
watching it
funny.
at the same time when it happened, and we were both like, "Oh my goodness!" Like, no way that he
He's
did
a
that to
grown
Bobby
man,
Wagner of all people.
Hall of
Bobby
Fame
Wagner.
middle linebacker. Yeah,
Yeah. So Bobby Wagner's on my number 4 slot for getting absolutely trucked by Baker Mayfield.
nice. All right, so I'm at number 3. I kind of didn't realize I put this many quarterbacks on, but it's gonna go Justin Herbert. Just a horrible performance. If you want to win a playoff game, you got to do better than throw 4 interceptions. Granted, 2 of them were drops. One kind of like tipped off Lad McConkey's hands, and the other one was off the tight end's hands. Can't exactly remember his name, but the one that changed pretty much the whole game entirely was the Lad McConkey one. Kind of tipped off, went into the DB's hands, ran it back for the touchdown, and then just kind of deflated the Chargers' offense for the rest of the game. But yeah, 4 interceptions. That's I think worthy of number 3, and 4 is not yours.
My number 3 is also Justin Herbert, kind of for the same reasons, the 4 interceptions, but also something I wanted to talk about. Something that's eye-raising to me. You're starting to look at Justin Herbert in the playoffs, and
I know.
it's
I
not
know.
looking too good because he had that game, obviously that famous game against the Jacksonville Jaguars where
Jags.
they're down by a ton and ended
Oh,
up giving like
my
blowing the
goodness.
lead and losing. So Justin Herbert's starting
That
to
was
have a
insane.
bad track record in the playoffs, and that's something that's a little
Yeah,
concerning if I'm a Chargers fan.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. So that's my number 3 as well,
All
Justin
right,
Herbert.
Dick. Number 2, the guy who pretty much threw the game away, literally, for Penn State, and that's Drew Aller. I don't know what he was looking at on that final drive or whatever, but he saw Tyler Warren was not open on the left side on that little out route. So he looks back as he's getting hit. He throws a drag, like a crossing route, right in the middle of the field. Which, if you're a quarterback, you are taught at a very young age to not throw the ball across the middle of the field, especially in a situation like that. Um, and then he just gets hit, throws the ball, and DB picks it off. That's pretty much game. So yeah, they were able to get the game-winning field goal for Notre Dame. Yeah, so he is my number 2.
My number 2, it pains me to put him on here because I've been rocking with this guy since week 1 of the show. Dark horse MVP. I have
Mhm.
Baker Mayfield for fumbling
I
in the
almost
fourth
put him on.
quarter. And that
Yeah,
ultimately is kind of what lost them the game if
it
you really
did.
think about it. I mean,
It did.
it was brutal. It hurt. I was pretty mad. I was
I
already
was
mad because we were playing 2K while watching the game, and I was doing bad in
I
2K.
know.
And then that
Oh my
happened,
god.
and I got even more mad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I
I
mean,
hate seeing
I was
Baker
gonna
do
put him
that.
on. I was gonna put him on, but then I was like, yeah, I feel like that's kind of like a, I don't know. I don't really want to, because I didn't know if you were gonna defend and be like, oh, but he had this stats, but I
No,
didn't
I
really want to
love
defend
Baker
that.
Mayfield, but like if you look at what lost the game, that is a
Oh, I
huge
know, I
play.
know.
That what lost the
That
game.
was
I mean,
probably the
beginning of the
game
fourth
was
quarter, and you fumble.
yeah.
They had been
That was,
driving all night too. It was
oh yeah.
they would have won if they didn't fumble. So that's why it's number
I don't
2.
know if you, I don't know if you saw, but Mike Evans' reaction, he was like screaming and like just so upset on the sideline, and not like
Rightfully
screaming at
so.
somebody, not screaming at somebody, but like kind of like just so upset and like amazed that that actually happened, just kind of to himself.
True competitor. I respect it.
Yeah, yeah. So number 1, man, the guy that was in the headlines in the beginning of the week, and that is Kyron Lacey. Oh my goodness. If you want to talk about, I'm not going to really get into it too much. I'm not going to, just because it's a sports
It's
broadcast.
bad.
But if you want to throw your career away, look at what Kyron Lacey did. Receiver for LSU. He would have been first round draft pick this year, first or second. Either way, he was making it to the league. Um, and pretty much just threw his career away, actually. So yeah, I think it's very deserving of number 1. Yeah, like I said, not gonna kind of get into depth on that. So
Yeah, I like that. That's a good number 1. Not to like joke about it, but have you seen the memes where they're saying Henry Ruggs, seeing him
oh
in the
yes,
coming to the prison yard?
I have, and they're just like
Um,
balling out. Yeah,
yeah, so
yes,
that's definitely a worthy number 1. That dude was an idiot and threw his career away. Um, like you said, would have
yeah,
been a first round pick, and now
hmm
he's a no round pick and first round pick into prison, I guess. Um,
yeah,
Number 1, I kind of just went all NFL theme, so I just
yeah.
went number 1.
Well,
I put the Minnesota Vikings. You won 14 games in the regular season just to get blown
oh
out
my
in the wild
goodness,
card. I mean, that's like crazy
I
to me. I
know,
mean, wow. Yeah, the Minnesota
it's
Vikings are number
embarrassing.
1. And we kind of, to be fair, I feel like we kind of hit the nail on the head when we were talking about it.
We
Sam
did
Darnold had never played a playoff game before, so you knew you were taking a
never.
risk right then and there. And then obviously you're coming off a terrible loss to the Lions. And I don't know if you saw this, but the other time they had lost 2 straight games, it was to the Lions and Rams on 2
That's
straight.
crazy.
Yeah, so
That's crazy.
also obviously their last game they had lost to the Lions, and then now they have lost to the Rams. So I thought that was a pretty interesting stat. But yeah, they're my number 1, and I feel bad for Sam Darnold because that dude probably went from going into contract negotiations for around 50 to 60
Oh
million
my
dollars a year to
gosh,
now he's probably going to be worth like $14 million max.
bro.
So
That's what they were talking about. Like Joe Buck on the broadcast was talking about. He probably lost a couple, like a little bit of money too in the
mhm,
offseason. Troy Aikman was like, "Yep, you're right on it."
yeah.
But I saw people saying that they should have just put Daniel Jones in because he's won a playoff game before. So yeah, I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, way
But
back when.
it was 2 years
Long
ago.
time ago.
It was 2 years
Long time
ago.
ago. All right.
I
Before we
know
wrap
we're
up this
not
episode, I just
talking.
want to. Oh, what happened?
I said, I know Dolphins ain't talking.
All right. All right. Before we wrap
No,
up
I
this
know, I know, I
episode,
know, I know.
before we wrap up this episode, I just want to touch on the fact again that we do have 2 extra episodes coming out this week. One on Friday, one on Saturday. The one on Friday is going to be an NFL divisional round prediction and breakdown, and then
Mhm.
obviously, like we said, Saturday it's going to be UFC 311 breakdown. So make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to be able to see those upcoming videos. And thank you guys so much for tuning into this week's episode of the GM Sports Report, where every play counts. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to be able to see our weekly episodes on All Things Sports. For additional content, check the description to see links to our Instagram and TikTok account. This is Grant and Mason signing off for now. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you, guys.